Hello, my name is Natalie, and I'm a current NC State student at the IAA, and I'm here with Trent Jones, who is a 2021 grad of the MSA and now works as a lead marketing data analyst at Vanguard. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about your current job and what a typical day looks like at Vanguard?
Yeah, it's like Natalie said, I'm a lead marketing analyst, and I focus mainly on our kind of relationship deepening marketing campaigns with people that have their 401k at Vanguard. That work involves a lot of experimentation design, propensity modeling to kind of aid our use and optimization of resources, figure out where our efforts are most efficiently spent and what kind of, creative and marketing materials are working for us and where we need to focus our efforts to develop new content to better get our message out there. So typical days, a handful, not a handful, two or three stand-up meetings usually across different teams, some with marketing folks, some with creative folks, some with my colleagues and other analysts on my team. Um, Other calls for any number of topics that can come up. Usually my mornings are almost entirely spent dialoguing with someone in some way, and then come the afternoon, it's hands-on keyboard to actually do analysis for any one of those topics that I mentioned earlier. So it's a nice split. It's a good thing that I'm generally more productive in the afternoons than the mornings, because that's what's free and that's kind of the only time I can work. So it
Mhm.
works for me. Um, and it's Vanguard's a good balance. They're scrappy, I think, on my side of the business. So a lot
Mhm.
of times it's anything's good, better than what we have, and it's a kind of ruthless prioritization. That's like um it's our backlog, whatever we can get out of it is good, and really does drive a lot of value. We are working on high value stuff almost exclusively because there's no time to work on anything else. So
Right.
a lot of interesting stuff.
Awesome. What are some tools or skills that you got at the IA that you use? Like, do you code a lot in Python or R, stuff like that?
Python exclusively. I've yet to see an R script since I got to Vanguard. So we're a Python shop. I did one of my very first weeks. We were converting a huge code base from SAS to Python, which I understand SAS I don't believe is as much of the curriculum now as it was when I
No
was
longer
there.
part of it, no.
So well, that was a good thing that I had some SAS when I was there because it was a good skill set for me there. But yeah, we're now that that work is done, we're exclusively Python. Obviously, tons of SQL interacting with all of our data. We're almost entirely within the AWS space, so Athena, SageMaker kind of deal, and then obviously pull down can work on stuff locally and kind of whatever you choose. Um, we do Tableau as our visual tool of choice. So that's got a lot of I had a little Tableau experience coming to the institute, but had a lot more when I left. That's come in handy. And I think just the biggest thing the IAA has taught me was it's a very practical sort of problem solving approach. And I think one of the hardest things to do for someone that has not had that experience in like a real kind of business case is getting started. There's a lot of inertia to overcome, and you want to plan everything out, have a full full checklist to follow kind of, but a lot of times it's you just got to get going and like we'll kind of iterate as we go. Agile methodology is very bought in at Vanguard, so that really practical like problem solving and approach to things is I think I can appreciate how hard it is to simulate in an environment like the Institute, but I think it's something to do a really good job on, and I think it's probably the one of the more valuable things that came out of my experience there. That and the teamwork. Very rarely am I the only contributor on a project, and that's the case at the Institute as well. So the more experience you can get working as a team and working on real hard, real life problems, um,
Mhm.
the better.
So you would say that the soft skill work we do with career development and teamwork was really helpful going into your job?
Absolutely. It's super underrated. And I think there's a lot of people out there that I've had on a lot of interviews for people who have a lot of technical skills. I've looked at a lot of really good code. submitted as a part of like case studies and in a hiring process. Um, but the differentiator are the people that have that and can also um, really understand business problems. And the value in data analytics comes from an analyst side, at least when we can have that proactive approach with our stakeholders. I know like the fastest way to build trust is going the extra 5 or 10% on an ask, and show that like you understand this business. Um, you're not just a, you know, come sum up these columns for me, tell me what happened. I can start to help you answer why it happened, what's important that happened. Um, and I think the soft skills really help facilitate that.
Yeah, awesome. What was the hardest part of the program? I know that you were in the year that was online, but what would you say was the most difficult thing for you, and how would you turn that into advice for incoming students?
Good question. Our like you said, definitely was being forced to do the entire program from my guest room. That was difficult, but that was an important skill to learn. A lot of the workforce is hybrid at the very least now. A lot of things are fully remote, but that was a good one. Um, Learning how to work in a remote environment with teams is a good skill. Um, I think one of the harder things to know is generally what all is out there in the like analytics space. It's super evolving, super fast, fast moving, especially kind of on the periphery and like the more in-depth stuff. Um, and I think one of the things that the IA taught me is the importance of basics and like really learning like everything about a logistic regression model. Like having a full, complete understanding about that. A lot of times that is going to be a really valuable and like it's going to get you 75 to 80% of the way there where the point of diminishing return starts to fall off. So the difficulty in that is it's complicated stuff like learning the actual math behind all of these things, I think is very important. There are people that will tell you out there that you could probably get away with not knowing the math on a lot of these things, but like the real difference maker and the ability to provide like concrete interpretable value comes from knowing all that in the background. So just because you can code it and you can kind of like get by on it, like don't learn it for the test, like actually I think learn and pay attention to the math of it all. It'll help your ability to communicate your ideas to folks and um yeah, my advice is don't skip on that.
Yeah, good advice. And then what was the best part of the program? Again, despite it being online.
Yeah, yeah. In spite of, I mean, the fact that it was online, the best part was the few times we did get to interact in person. It was really great to like. The funny part was always seeing how tall people are relative to how tall you think they are after only seeing them on Zoom. So you finally meet after like spending hours together a day, virtually. That was always really interesting. My favorite part was the practicum project. Um, we had a really interesting analysis that was like eventually we talk a lot about modeling and kind of those techniques in data science, but there's more to it than that. And even like if you generalize data science to just advanced analytics, there's a lot more ways than just building a model to approach a problem. Ours, we got to do a ton of networks and some like clustering on data points derived from those networks, which I thought was a really unique approach that I don't think I would have thought of if I hadn't had four other incredibly smart people working with me on that problem. So I had a really great team that made the experience worth it. We had really good advisors, really good sponsors from the company we were working with. It was a really good experience and kind of opened my eyes to the kind of breadth there is in the advanced analytics space.
Awesome. Do anyone in your class still keep in touch or hang out or from your practicum team or anything?
Not as closely as I would like to. I do think that's the big thing we missed out on. I do love I check LinkedIn fairly regularly, and someone's always getting a promotion, so it's always great to see that. And I'm always there with the clapping hands react on LinkedIn with that. So
Mhm.
I'm not speaking to anyone all that much, but I am watching and noting everyone's success. And there's been a lot of I mean, I went to school with a lot of really, really smart people, and it's nice to see them um, you know, advancing in the professional world like I knew they would.
Yeah, for sure. Last question I have for you is I know a lot of people get nervous when they come into the program and maybe or are looking to apply and they didn't come from a strong technical background or statistics background, or maybe they've been out of school for a while. Do you have any advice for those people on how to prepare for the program or anything like that?
Yeah. I was lucky to have a very strong technical background coming in. Um, but I will say from that, like a lot of people I know that did not ended up very technically mature by the time they left the program. Like the gap was closed very quickly. And I think like especially now like that you're hitting the ground running with Python. I know that started even, 6 to 8 weeks into the summer for us. So um, now that it's even more like front loaded, just know like the program is designed for everyone that gets in to succeed. No one like if you're willing to put in the effort, the resources are absolutely there and willing to help you get to that point. So um, I saw a lot of people from very, very different backgrounds from mine end up being writing some just very beautiful, efficient, and effective code by the end of the time there. So um, I came in probably one of the more technically inclined folks, and I left probably right in the meaty part of the bell curve. So there's a lot of people that can help you get to where you want to go. And if you're willing to identify the points that you might be a little weaker in, someone has done it before, a resource exists to help you get there. So I would absolutely not let that be a detractor from someone getting to do this experience.
Yeah, totally. Just to give you some update on where we are now, we actually started Python like our very first week there.
There you
Python
go.
and then a bit of R and a bit of SQL, but Python's kind of the main focus, SQL, and then we'll get our Tableau certification in the fall. So sounds like it's as expected, pretty up to date with
There
what
you go. That's our whole tech stack. You'll be ready to work at Vanguard.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I'm sure incoming and prospective students would love to hear this, and I did too.
Awesome. I hope it's helpful. And anyone that is has any other questions, if they want to reach out to me, please feel free to. I really enjoy talking to current students and reliving the glory days of my time at the Institute.